This is the Volkswagen Tayron, and it looks familiar because you could think of it as a Tiguan that's grown a bit over here and also a bit over here. And the benefit of that length extension, a third row of seats. First things first. The Tayron is to the new Tiguan what the Tiguan Allspace was to the old Tiguan. In look, there's a clear connect to the Tiguan, though there are detailed differences if you look for them. The LED matrix headlights are slightly different and there's a slimmer panel between the lights too. There's a light bar and the logo glows as well. The bumper is also slightly different, though this too being a sporty R-line. There's a large mesh-like area finished in gloss materials, wide intakes with prominent slats, and also an aero channel at the sides. The real difference is when you view the Tayron in profile. The wheelbase is 109mm longer and the longer rear overhang pushes length to 4792mm or a massive 253mm more than the Tiguan. Width is about the same though. It looks substantial and sits well on its snazzy 19-inch wheels. The gloss effect makes its way to the sides too on the wheel arches. Styling is clean with neat lines, and I really like how the shoulder line swells from the rear doors to the tail, and also the silver surround that dips down from the roof to the rear glass section. At the back, there's intricately done taillights with LED elements. Of course, there's a light bar too, and even the VW logo glows. There's a gloss mesh-like look for the lower portion of the bumper, but the exhaust pipes sadly remain hidden from view. It's an attractive SUV and the contrast black elements on this R-line do help lend some sportiness to the design. Do note a lower trim version of the Tayron comes later this year and would likely get simpler detailing and wheels. Under the skin, the Tayron has much in common with the Skoda Kodiaq. They're built on the same platform, are near identical in size and are powered by the same engine. What do you think of the Volkswagen Tayron, and would you have it over a Skoda Kodiaq? Or would you spend the same kind of money on something more traditional like a Toyota Fortuner? Let us know in the comment section below, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the Autocar India channel and hit that bell icon to be notified every time we have a new video up. The interior is very Volkswagen, and that means a word on quality first. Quality-wise, the Tayron ticks all the right boxes. It's got that solid feel on door shut which you associate with Volkswagens, and most of the things that you touch are of a very high quality. The seats are very comfortable, look plush, and are very premium as well. Then there's the steering wheel. It doesn't break new ground for design, but again very nicely finished and gives you physical controls for all that matters. There's also this Alcantara-like effect which lends the interior a slightly sporty feel, and I like what Volkswagen has done over here. It works really well with the ambient lighting, which is superbly done. The combined effect of the ambient lighting, crisp digital dials and touchscreen is mega in the dark. At the same time, if you do poke around, you will find some hard and un-Volkswagen-like plastics lower down. The dash is shared with the Tiguan and best described in a word as minimalist. There are no buttons here. The touchscreen is the go-to control for almost all features, and it's a laptop rivaling 15 inches in size. Now, as for the 15-inch touchscreen, yes, it is large, but it isn't what you'd call in your face as we've seen in other models with oversized touchscreens. The screen is also pretty well laid out, so you get the important information as tabs on the main screen, and there are not too many layers even for the other important functions. You also get your AC controls in clear sight. Now these are hard-coded onto the screen, so settings for the climate control system as well as the seat heating and ventilation functions are always visible. You get slider controls here under the touchscreen for volume and AC controls. The thing is, while these controls and settings are in clear sight, they still don't give you the tactile feel that you'd get with traditional knobs. And almost as a consolation, you get a physical knob here. The knob controls volume and can also be toggled to drive mode settings and ambient lighting themes. Just in case you've missed it so far, there's no traditional gear selector between the seats. That function is controlled by a stalk behind the steering, and it's actually easy to get used to. Now, with the gear selector moved behind the steering wheel, there's a lot of space freed up on the center console, and that means lots of space to store smaller items. So I'll run you through the list. At the base right here of the dashboard, you get this panel lifted up and you find two wireless charging pads. There are also two USB Type-C charging ports tucked away there. Over here between the seats, you get a removable cup holder set. Move the armrest up and you get another large storage bay between the seats. Then the glove box is of a usable size and the door pockets are also large.
The Tayron has also picked up a few features that were missing in the Tiguan.
The front seats are nice and large and will accommodate a larger framed individual like myself also very comfortably. An upgrade over the standard Tiguan is the inclusion of ventilation, which was missing on the imported model.
Powered front seat adjust and memory functions are other crucial upgrades.
As before, there's seat massage functions as well as heating, and there's also heating for the steering wheel.
Another thing missing on the Tiguan but offered on the Tayron is a 360-degree camera. Sadly, the resolution isn't great and you'd expect a better output on such an expensive car. The Tayron R-Line does get quite a bit else. The 10.25-inch digital dials get multiple themes, there's a head-up display, 3-zone climate control, a panoramic sunroof and an 11-speaker Harman Kardon sound system. Over to the middle row.
In terms of middle seat space and comfort, the Tayron does quite well for itself. Now I'm just under 6 feet tall, the front seat is set to my driving position and I have a good amount of knee room, plenty of space to tuck my feet under the front seat. In case I have use for the third row of seats, I also have the option to slide my seat forward to make up space for the third row of passengers. But when those seats are not in use, it's best to keep these seats all the way back, and you also have the option to recline the backrest angle by about 15 degrees. Now, one thing to bring up about the seats is that while this is a 3-seat bench, it's not going to be the most comfortable experience for the middle seat passenger. One of the reasons is that the center tunnel is quite high, and the other fact is that the seats are contoured for 2 occupants. The seat then is best enjoyed with 2 fold the center armrests down, pop out this cup holder, which has a very cool feature that it can be angled to either side. On the subject of cup holders, I'd also like to bring in that the door pockets are nice and large and they are felt lined, so even when you have things which are moving around here, you won't hear them. Other features at the back include a dedicated zone for the climate control system, their USB Type-C charging ports. You get sunshades for these large rear windows and they make quite a difference on a hot day. On days when the weather is good and you have clear skies above, or you want to get a good sight of the clouds above, you can also fold back the panoramic sunroof all the way back and you can check out how far back it extends.
But there's no boss mode to slide the front row seats forward from the back. The third row is not for everyone. Curbside access requires you to slide the larger portion of the 60-40 split seats. The seat doesn't tumble forward and access is via a small opening.
So access to the third row is inconvenient, and as you can tell, space is tight. This is not a seat for someone of my size. I have absolutely no knee room. In fact, the middle row seat has been pushed quite a bit forward just so that I can be accommodated for this frame. Headroom also in short supply. My knees are pointed skyward, so this is a no-go for a full-size adult like me. But it's not an absolutely unusable space. In fact, our camera person Sharad, who's behind the camera right now, he's 5 feet 7 inches tall. He sat on the last row, I sat on the middle row, and we worked out a reasonable space compromise. You can use this seat, but just for short journeys.
What is noteworthy is that even with all seats up, there's a usable luggage area big enough to store cabin bags with ease. Folding down the third row opens up a massive 850 liters of room, and need even more space, the second row can be folded as well. Also, something to bring in is the inclusion of a power tailgate that was missing on the Tiguan. There's also gesture control for both opening and closing functions. As mentioned, the Tayron shares its engine with the Skoda Kodiaq. That's a 2-litre, 204 horsepower, 320 Nm direct injection turbo petrol unit. Power is channeled to all four wheels via a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. Nope, no diesel options here. You'll like the way the Tayron drives.
The VW Group's E888 2-litre turbo petrol engine is amongst the best out there. It's very smooth, very refined, and also delivers just the right amount of power when you want it. Now this 204 horsepower doesn't really come at you all at once, but it's got a very nice and wide spread of power that you'll really like.
Mind you, it is quick. VW claims a 0 to 100 kph time of 7.3 seconds and a top speed of 224 kph.
What also helps the driving experience is the way this engine sounds. It's got this slightly gravelly note at low speeds, but when you go a bit faster, it gets throatier and sort of puts you in the mode of fun driving. Now this engine comes paired to a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission, and it plays its supporting role really well. Very smooth in its shifts, particularly when you're out cruising on the highway, adapts very well to changes in speed and also your driving style. Now out on the wide sweeping roads around Jaisalmer, we haven't experienced that slight hesitation at low speeds that DCTs or DSGs are known for. That's something we'll have to put to the test in actual real-world Mumbai chock-a-block rush hour traffic. But first impressions are that this gearbox is quite smooth. There are driving modes in the Tayron as well. There are 4 driving modes as well as an individual setting, so you can personalize different parameters such as the steering, the engine responses, the all-wheel drive system, and the dynamics as well. Now typically when you switch from comfort mode to sport mode, you will note that the Tayron becomes a bit more energetic, a bit more alive. There's more feel at the steering, and that's the mode you want to be when you want to have a bit of fun behind the wheel.
For all the comfort features that the Tayron has gained over the Tiguan, it's also lost one feature that keen drivers will miss.
Now what is missed from the standard Tiguan that came to India as an import is dynamic chassis control. So you can't specifically alter damper characteristics. And what that means is you lack a bit of adjustability that you would have liked in this suspension. So when you're going faster, there is a bit of movement up and down. It's not disturbing, and you'll only really notice it if you pay attention. On the whole, this is a show-footed car and one that wouldn't feel out of place at autobahn speeds. Handling is typical VW, so it's neat, it's tidy, it's not overly exciting in any way, but the good thing is that the Tayron doesn't feel like a long vehicle that it actually is. There's a good sense of control that you get at the steering, there's a good deal of weight that you get at highway speeds, yet at the same time at low city speeds or when you want to take a U-turn, the steering feels light and easy to twirl. In fact, that's one of the highlights on the Tayron for someone who is also considering something like a Fortuner. The Tayron is very easy to drive, very easy to live with, in a way the Fortuner simply isn't.
The Tayron gets VW's 4-motion all-wheel drive, and that does add in a safety net in poor weather or when the surface deteriorates. Speaking of which,
ground clearance is not an issue on the Tayron, but at typical city speeds you will find a slight firmness from the suspension and the tires that you'll feel over potholes and even rumble strips and the like.
Of the other things, the Tayron also packs in a few ADAS features.
The Tayron also comes packed in with a few ADAS features, including lane keep assist, and it's done its job fairly well on the smooth and well-marked highways outside of Jaisalmer. There's also automatic emergency braking. Thankfully, I have not needed to put it to the test today. And there's also driver drowsiness detection, which will give you a warning straight on the instruments.
Also part of the package is adaptive cruise control and an auto parking function. Safety kit comprises 9 airbags including a center airbag, anti-lock brakes, stability control, a tire pressure monitor and hill hold assist. The Tayron will be launched later in February, but the thing to bring in is that it will be assembled in India, while the Tiguan was brought in as a full import. And it's this local assembly that should help the larger and more wholesome Tayron sport a lower price tag. We expect Tayron R-line prices to be in the same ballpark as the Skoda Kodiaq L&K at around 46 to 48 lakh rupees ex-showroom. A lower version that comes later this year will bring the price down. Fans of European cars will immediately find a connect with the Tayron. It looks contemporary, it's well equipped and has a feel-good factor about it. Downsides, the lack of physical buttons takes getting used to. Also, the Tayron is not ideal as a 7-seater, but those with only occasional use for the third row will love the massive luggage space folding the seats opens up. In conclusion then, for someone happy to spend 50 lakh rupees on an SUV, the Tayron R-Line makes for a polished and well-rounded package that's hard to ignore.